Welcome to our podcast. This is the second episode of The Revolving Door. We just have conversations with my son Will Coughlin, and Michael Coughlin, and I'm the old guy.
Old Blue.
And we're going to talk about whatever we want to talk about today. Hope you find it interesting, and I'd also like to give a special thank you for the 14 people who watched podcast number 1. I'm really proud.
No, thank you very much for watching the video, and appreciate everyone that hit me back and said that they enjoyed it and stuff like that. But I had a few people ask how to brew a brew with the French press, so I'm just gonna kind of go over it with you guys. It's real easy. You just dump if you got a French press this size, you just dump like maybe a 1/4 inch in the bottom of it. If you can kind of see it, the dust kind of coming up. You can just kind of blow that away. But anyway, you fill it up with hot water. Oh yeah, another thing I like to do is take these yogi tea bags. This one is vanilla spice. You put it in there and it kind of gives you, it really gives you some extra flavor. But anyway, got some hot water in the thermos.
Should be in Starbucks any day now.
No, it probably won't be.
Spicy tea.
Anyway, but if you have a bigger thermos, you can fill it all the way up. This one didn't quite get there, but that just means that it's going to be strong.
So how long do you let it sit?
Well, really, if you put like a 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch of yerba mate in there, you can get, and fill it up all the way, you can get 2 brews out of it. So I normally put the hot water in there, don't even let it sit that long. And then I brew it. Today, we're not going to make 2 brews out of it just because we're doing the podcast, but I'll just make 1. But normally, I'd let it sit the first brew, like not even a minute. And then I brew it, pushing that down, and then I take off this top part and put more hot water in there. But anyway, as you can see, you push this thing down, and it pushes all the loose leaf down to the bottom. And you can do this with coffee too.
It's all science.
Yeah, all science. But anyway, that was just letting it steep for how long do you think that was?
Less than a minute.
About a minute?
Less than a minute.
Anyway,
yeah. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. It tastes like tea. I'm not gonna fool you about it. It tastes like tea, but it's tea that's really good for you. And like I mentioned in the first pod, it does have health benefits to you, and I'm feeling better.
Yeah. Countless health benefits. It even helps, like me right now, with everything that's going on in the world. This helps with immunity. It boosts your immunity, so it'll, yeah. So that's a good thing.
Good. Just a little bit.
Obviously, but there's so many health benefits. And like I mentioned on the first podcast, you can look it up on YouTube. And there's so much videos and information on it on YouTube. Anyway, another thing, real quick, I also got these cans of yerba mate. This one right here is Enlightened Mint. It's mint flavored. It's pretty good. They may have a handful of these. There's the only other one I have right now is called Lemon Elation. These 2 are pretty good. I didn't have one that I didn't like, but there's a berry one, a Bluephoria.
They're good cold.
Yeah, they are.
You don't have to heat them up.
Anyway, I wanted to show you. They are kind of expensive though. These are like $2.79 before tax, and it's easy to drink like 5 of these a day. Like this is the 4th one I've had today, so it's really not ideal, as far as being more expensive. This bag, 2-pound bag of yerba mate, costs $10, and this bag lasts me a month. So it's a $10 a month habit. I wouldn't even call it a habit. It's more like a
benefit.
A relationship with this drink.
Whereas a $14 a day habit with the cans.
These are just kind of like they're good, but I can't afford to drink them as much. And there's nothing there's nothing wrong with this yerba mate. I'm drinking it hot, so it's all good.
A lot going on in the world. They just came out with the IG report just hours ago.
What's that?
The Inspector General, he's looking at the whole thing with all the things the Democrats are doing and all the shenanigans going on. So it's really kind of depressing to realize all that was going on in the country we live in. But it happened, and they're going to clear it up. They're going to clean house and clear it up. So right now we want to get the world back to work. The pandemic, I think, is kind of taking a downhill slide. You know, it's no longer the earth-shaking event. I mean, it's still bad, but it's not going to end the world or anything like that. So
it's going to have like permanent damage, if you will, on the way that society operates from this point forward.
But the people that passed away from it, the majority of the people that died from this virus are the majority of the people that died from the flu or from the swine flu or anything, influenza. The older people, like me, I got to be careful, you know. So, but I'm in reasonably good health. So, but if you're my age and you have health issues, you got to be careful. You got to be careful of any virus going around. So, and pneumonia or anything like that. You know.
The yerba mate helps with immunity.
Well, yeah.
So you have a good immune system.
I mean, I can't say that I'm still alive just because I drink this stuff. You know, I'm not going to go that far. But
you'd have been dead a week ago.
You think so? Okay. Pushing up daisies. It's an old Western. The person didn't realize how profound the sentence was. It was just a little piece in a movie, and the bad guy says, "You're going to be pushing up daisies." Well, he's actually correct. They didn't. A lot of times they didn't. a lot of times they didn't put them in coffins and that kind of thing back wild Western days.
Just put them under a layer of dirt,
a couple of rocks on top, and right off into the sunset. But and there you are pushing up daisies.
That's like off this show, The Walking Dead, which was everyone's heard about it. There's a part where this character, her name's Carol, has to shoot this little girl, has to kill her because this little girl named Lizzie, she is all fucked up in her head, and she thinks that zombies are good people, and that if you fucking die and become one, you're good. So she kills her sister, which is younger than her. Anyway, so Carol, who's not Carol Baskin, Carol, who is looking after these two girls, after Lizzie kills her little sister, has to go out and kill her, because if not, Carol's gonna be next. And the other dude, I can't remember who it was. So Carol's like, "Just look at the flowers, Lizzie. Look at the flowers." And Lizzie's like, "Oh, where's the flowers? Oh, there's the flowers." And Carol's like, "Just look at the flowers, Lizzie. Look at the flowers."
And the Academy Award for Best Drama goes to all right. But you're talking to somebody who didn't watch any of the Walking Dead.
I know. That's why I went in depth with that story.
Okay.
So it made you feel like you were there.
Oh, I really felt like I was there.
Yeah.
That all spun off of a movie that came out in 1961 called Night of the Living Dead. Mm-hmm. And it was in black and white. And it had, none of the actors were well known at all. And it was a low budget thing. They hired all the people in the local town where they filmed it to dress up like zombies, and they had this little script, and it made a lot of money. It made a lot of money.
Wasn't it the first of its kind?
It was
the first zombie movie,
and it actually was scary. I mean, we hadn't been seeing it every week, on TV every week. After a while, the scariness kind of wears off a little bit. But I didn't see it in the theater. I saw it on the TV, and it just scared me because I was younger. 1961.
Well, whenever Godzilla came out,
well, that
was the scariest fucking movie ever. Not to me, but back then.
Oh, it scared the crap out of me. I remember just being frozen in fear. Have you ever been frozen in fear? I mean, you've been so scared you can't move. I've only had it done, a bunch of times. Aside from some women I meet. But anyway,
Go ahead.
Earthquake. I was in an earthquake when I was in fourth grade in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. And the whole house was doing that, and I was so struck with fear, I couldn't make it to the door. They said, "Well, get into a door jam."
How old were you?
Oh gosh, I think I was in fourth grade.
So you're like
9 or 10. Yeah. I was playing cars on my bed like I always did when I was a kid.
Little Hot Wheels.
They were kind of like Hot Wheels, but they were just a little bit nicer, and they lasted a little bit longer. But anyway, and they were cheaper. But anyway, I was playing cars, and all of a sudden the whole house started shaking, and they kept saying, well, get to a doorway, like the whole house falls over. Sure glad I'm in a doorway. They take the doorway with it, but it's supposed to be the sacred place. Under a huge table would be nice. But anyway, I was just frozen with fear. The house was shaking, my cars were shaking, the bed, the windows were rattling, and I just couldn't get going to get to the doorway. And it was only like 6 feet away.
How long did it last?
Well, it seemed, when you do it seems like it lasts forever. But I think about 15 seconds. It was just really scary.
Solid frozen fear.
Solid fear, just absolutely petrified. Absolutely petrified.
I wanted to go back to The Walking Dead. You mentioned Night of the Living Dead.
Right.
Robert Kirkman, who is the writer of The Walking Dead, while Walking Dead was being aired on TV, I don't even know if it still is. I stopped watching it. Kind of got lame in my opinion, but they had after each episode they'd have a show that come on called Talking Dead, where this dude would host it and they would just talk about the episode. Oh. They do that with a few different shows.
Yeah. To be funny or to be
no, to just talk about it and be involved in it. And, there's like behind the scenes shit, and there's people from the show that come on and sit on the couch. Anyway, Robert Kirkman was on the couch a bunch, and he said that maybe it was the director, I can't remember, but someone mentioned that they based the idea of the zombies for that show off Night of the Living Dead. They didn't want them, running. They just kind of. Yeah. Sometimes they have like a small little jog if they're like running right after you. But and what's also cool is Night of the Living Dead was in black and white when it came out. Whenever Robert Kirkman wrote The Walking Dead comics, they were black and white.
Oh, really?
Yeah, could have been color.
I didn't know they had the comics.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's based off of comics. And what's crazy is that I'm pretty sure that Walking Dead comic #1 came out in I believe it's 2001 or 2003, something like that. The last Comic-Con I went to about 4 or 5 years ago, there was one for sale for $10,000. It came out in 2001.
Was it right next to a 57 Chevy?
No, this was at a Comic-Con, not a car convention.
You can't afford a comic book and you can't afford a 57 Chevy, so what the hell? What's life coming to? But Godzilla was a scary movie too. It was scary, but it really scared us. Yeah, the big monster, big lizard, and all that. But it really scared the Japanese people because Japanese people they don't have the sense of. This is not derogatory. Okay, they don't have the sense of space like we have. Like we put 6 or 8 people in the elevator, and we're all going, like we're real close to each other. And we're kind of uncomfortable, right? Japanese people will put 35 people in the same elevator and think nothing of it. Right? Think nothing of it. So when you have a monster coming down, stepping on buses and cars, it just really scares them because
that's the most terrifying thing.
Oh, it's terrifying. They were just horrified when they saw that movie. But they've had some great old movies.
One movie that scared the shit out of me when I was a kid was not only Pet Sematary, holy shit, but that Stephen King Graveyard Shift. Stephen King,
I don't think I saw that.
Based off a book. He's about this fucking huge rat, like sewer rat, man-eating sewer rat, and they get to find him. They're spraying underneath this building in the sewers or some fucking shit, killing all these big rats, and then they get picked off one by one, get pulled off. And they come to the end, and there's they find where that rat lives down in the fucking sewer or whatever, and there's a pile of bones, human bones.
Getting back even with the scientists, the white mice. Yeah.
But Pet Sematary was another one that scared me, and still to this day, in my opinion, has one of the best endings in any movie.
I don't remember the movie. I didn't really care for the movie.
That's okay. At the end of the movie, The main guy who completely goes insane buries his wife gets killed, and so he takes her all the way to the pet cemetery, buries her, goes home, and he's so fucked up at this point because he's already had to fucking kill his son. But he goes home and like waits for her to come back, and the back door opens. You see her, the camera pans, from the feet going up. You see her, she's missing one of her high heels. The other one's like broken or whatever, and it shows her face, and she's dead. But I mean, she's walking, and he looks up at her. He's like, baby, and they hug. He goes up to her and hugs her, and she grabs the kitchen knife, stabs him in the back. Ah! Roll credits.
That's it?
That's the best fucking ending in history. That's this. Oh,
Whatever happened to Fade to Black?
no, just
That's a good ending.
Yeah.
Well, I like the old the movies. They had we talked about the flying saucers and things like that. That was sparked back in the 50s, the Blue Book and all that kind of thing about the same time. And ever since they came out with the flying saucer movies, Invaders from Space, and they just made all kinds of grade B movies. And all of a sudden everybody got the idea that everything they see in the sky now is a UFO, and it just went crazy. But they made some scary movies. But I like the tongue-in-cheek one. What was that? Invasion from Mars, the one with Jack Nicholson and
Mars Attacks.
Mars Attacks.
That was an amazing
That
movie.
that was good. That was good.
that.
You're gonna make fun of something, do it that way.
There's a lot of good actors in that movie too.
Yeah, there was. There was a lot of. They had a good bass going. They had a good bass going. Kudos to them. But it was a fun movie.
It was
a fun movie.
I want to get that. I don't have it.
You know,
That's a movie I should have.
If every
A
movie,
lot of movies.
he's never seen Easy Rider.
Yeah, that's an old school movie.
Yeah,
That's before I was 2 decades before I was born.
Yeah, it was cool because it was Peter Fonda and it was low budget. I mean, low budget. A pickup truck with a camera and a couple of guys on a bike. And but they had a storyline and it was good. Peter Fonda was good in it, but I really like Dennis Hopper. He has always been
He's a good actor.
He's a good actor. He's been in so many movies. I'm sorry he passed away. But
He passed away?
Yeah.
When?
Well, I don't know what date and time, but
Well, you said you loved. I'm kidding.
I love the guy.
I did too. I didn't know he died.
I don't have his
Shit.
obituary on my wall or
We
anything.
need to get a portrait back here.
Oh, well, remember we're going to get to one with Easy Rider. Him and the chopper giving the finger to the guy. I had that poster years ago, and I don't know what happened to it.
If someone wants to order us the picture of Easy Rider and flip him off the camera, we'll put it right there.
Put it right there.
Every podcast.
Yeah. It's a great picture.
Yeah.
It was just before the rednecks shot him. But,
So how did Dennis Hopper die? You remember?
no. I don't know. He was an old guy.
Man,
A lot of movies.
when I think of Dennis Hopper, I go straight to Waterworld.
Yeah,
That is Dennis Hopper to me. That's
Yeah, he played
another sick ass movie.
yeah, he played it.
Didn't that movie get shit on when it came out?
Well,
No one liked it.
It went way over budget, and it was a good movie. I liked it. I liked the music. I
love
liked the
that movie.
water, the boat. He had the coolest boat on the planet, right? And but everywhere he went, it was kind of like everywhere he went, everyone died.
Yeah.
I mean, everywhere he went, he was kind of like the apocalyptic guy, right? But anyway, aside from that, that's a storyline to keep everybody interested. But
That's a classic movie. I love that
classic,
movie.
classic. My favorite line in that whole movie was they were having a little disagreements. They had the two girls on this boat, and here comes was it Jack Black?
In the plane.
In the plane. Is that
I
Jack?
think that was Jack Black.
No, it was.
Before he was.
Was that his right name, Jack
Yeah,
Black?
yeah.
Okay. So here comes Jack Black with his compadre flying this old smoke.
I don't even think he said a word in the movie.
Oh, no, I don't think so.
Ah!
It was facial response.
Yeah.
Here's the old silly airplane coming, right? Sky boat. That's what Dennis Hopper called it, a sky. Not that sky boat now. So they come across, and they're having a little disagreement on the boat and whatnot. And Triplethorn, she comes around, and he goes, what? She goes, what's that? And they look over and they see this airplane coming, right? And so she turns to him and says, can we outrun him? And Kevin Costner, I don't know who wrote this line in. I really don't know who wrote this line in. Says, not with my sails down. Wait a minute. Okay, picture this. Jack Black is trying to catch. He's flying this old screwed up plane. Man, we just can't catch this boat because he's got his sails up. We're going to run out of gas before we catch up to him. You're going to outrun an airplane with a sailboat. That's the only little thing that didn't quite, jive. But it was a great movie. Great movie.
Yeah, it was. Classic. I remember when I was a kid, we had it, and we probably watched it 100 times.
Oh yeah, that and Willow.
Just the beginning of it, it's like the future. The polar ice caps have melted.
I don't know.
Leaving the entire world underwater.
I don't know why they had to start the movie off with him taking a pee and then going up and then drinking. Come on now, you take seawater. Isn't that for seawater?
Yeah, but I mean, like at that point, I mean, yeah. I mean, really, yeah.
But any liquid, you can make hydroponic thing, whatever it is. I'm not sure exactly what it was. Later it got broken. But anyway, good flick. Good movie. I loved it. I've seen it 50 times.
Oh, I've seen it 100. I already stated that for the camera.
But I watched another movie, Knives Out. I just watched that the other day. That's very clever. Very
newer movie.
Very well written. And had a whole bunch of movie stars in it. A whole bunch. And they all played their parts. It was good. It was good. The guy that played James Bond was a sleuth, and so he was interesting. It's nice to see him play outside of it.
Daniel Craig.
Nice to see him play. He's expanding his career. Mm-hmm. He was in, what was that thing about the cake? Layer Cake. That was a good movie, too.
I didn't see that one.
Oh, about English gangsters. He was a middleman English gangster. It was a good movie. But he played a good part in that. But we like movies. What else we want to talk about?
Well, I can go on movies all day. Interstellar.
Yeah.
Interstellar.
Yeah.
One of the best movies
Great movie.
ever made. If you haven't seen the movie, it's highly recommended by me and him. We've seen it a lot. We went and saw it in theaters when it came out because it looked so good, and it was so good.
The only thing that bad about seeing it in the theater, and you would think it would be the best way to see it. However, lately the theaters that I've been to, they turn the volume up so loud.
Yeah, you have old ears.
Well, I mean, old ears means you're hard of hearing, right? I mean, not overly sensitive. The other way around. But it was so loud, and then not just that movie. Every movie I've been to in the last 3 years, which is not that many, but in the last 3 years, the theaters have been, the volume is up way too high. But the music was good in that movie too. The background music.
Yeah, it was. They did a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
Christopher Nolan.
Yeah, they had a little thing when you buy the DVD. They have a little thing with special features and whatnot, and they talk about how they made the movie. Mm-hmm. Really, really quite interesting.
Yeah, Christopher Nolan was the director. He also directed the Dark Knight trilogy with Christian Bale. I remember whenever that movie came out on DVD or Blu-ray, I picked it up on Blu-ray. I got paid the extra $10 for the collector's edition one because I was like, yay, it's finally out. I can watch it at home. And it came with a little 70mm film strip, or a film cell. It was just a picture, and it was of Anne Hathaway whenever she was in the ship going through the black hole. It was in that scene. Just a cutout of that scene. Because you know how many of those little cells are whenever they film that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I can't even guess.
It's really hard. The only thing I think they stretched just a little bit in that movie, which maybe it wasn't as popular.
Well, there's a lot of stretches.
Yeah,
it was amazing.
Well, they did a lot of science, real true to earth science, and a theory of relativity and how time changes when you go through space and all that. They did a good job on that, but when you fall into a black hole, it's over.
Well,
game over, man. It's
what-
over. I mean, you fall into a black hole, and the gravity is so intense that light can't get out. What's it going to do to your eyeball when you go in there? You're done.
That's a theory. That's a theory. We can't prove anything, just like they say on the behind the scenes shit on Interstellar. You can't prove anything. So really, a big stretch was how they were able to see what was on the other side and bring that information back. You know what I mean?
Which you can't do.
Yeah. So that was a huge stretch.
Yeah.
But it was still cool. Seriously, a tear-jerking movie.
Good movie.
I probably cried in that movie
I
like
cried
6 or 7 times.
Yeah, it was good.
It was.
Good scene and the
Matthew
special effects.
McConaughey.
Yeah, the robots they had in that movie.
Oh.
Were just I had never believed that you
Tars.
you take a slab, kind of like the monolith in 2001, and all of a sudden he's walking around and talking, walking and talking, and you say what? So, but it was really quite good.
It was cool how Tars, the robot, was such a character.
Yeah.
In that movie. Yeah.
Program
He was a robot.
character. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's plenty of movies with robots as characters, but this was like a science fiction movie. Ultimately, a science fiction movie, but it was like one of the most real science fiction movies. Like,
Yeah.
Other than there's like we said, there's a lot of stretches in there.
Yeah.
But it was
Had a lot of
that
true
character
science
was
in it.
cool because that in that story, it's not too far into the future from where we are. Like it was probably. What do you think?
Well, he
What
had-
year do you think it was? It never said.
They never said, but he had a Dodge pickup.
Probably like probably if I had to guess, it was probably the year like 2035.
50.
I think 50
Yeah.
with the Dodge truck.
Well, the old farm truck then.
That was probably like a 90. That's probably like a 2000 Dodge.
Yeah. 2000.
No, but that's just, we can't do it.
Old farm truck, old farms. He was a farmer. Farmers have old trucks.
But that was a sick movie. If you like Matthew McConaughey, he delivers. He goddamn.
Good actor. Has a lot of range on him too.
What's another movie you've seen in theaters past few years?
Well, I saw the Suicide Squad. That was real loud too, and that was a little over the top. But see, I'm not into Marvels. And you're into Marvel and DC and all that, and I'm not really that much into that. But movie that I think one of my favorite all-time movie is
There you go. What's your favorite?
Monty Python, Quest for the Holy Grail. Now,
That is
that's
a classic.
really, really. I went and saw that in a theater. It was considered when it first came out.
What year was that?
Oh my God! Well, they just invented the movie theater, but anyway, it was when it first came out. It didn't play at the main theater in Santa Cruz. It played in the art theater, right? The smaller theater, but they played all the art movies. But it was so funny. It was so funny.
That is. I haven't seen it in a long time. It's
But
been probably a number of years.
Oh gosh, it's just the epitome of humor. It's just making fun of the English, making fun of riding horses. They made fun of everything.
It's making fun of themselves.
And they
That's
just
so
had
good.
so many classic lines in it. And they made fun of themselves while they were making it. For instance, when they were on there, they had the wizard, the fellow with the horn. It was John Gleese. He was all dressed up. He was a wizard, and he had that stick, and he's shooting things. And everybody's standing there applauding because the things are blowing up. And then he gives this little speech about, they're going to go get this monster or whatever. And the king, fellow who plays the king, turns the camera, turns around and says, "What an extraordinary performance!" Right in the middle of the movie, he said that. It's just really too funny. Too funny.
I remember you watched that a lot whenever I was a kid. That's when I first, obviously, saw it. Seen it a few times as an adult, but man, like I said, it's been a while. I would love to watch that again.
Yeah.
We should get that just to
Yeah.
watch.
Yeah.
We recently watched, I made him watch, one of my other favorite movies, The Watchmen. A lot of people don't like The Watchmen. I really do. It's one of my favorite. It is my favorite DC piece. Yeah, he didn't really care for it much. The movie was a lot. It was, in my opinion, it was so great because it really followed the comics very well, almost to the T. And Zack Snyder, the director, I love his style of directing. He did 300. He also did Batman vs Superman, Dawn of Justice, and Man of Steel. I made you watch those too. Remember those? Anyway, The Watchmen, so badass. That's okay that you didn't like it, but that's one of my all-time favorites. Another thing I wanted to talk about with The Watchmen, I don't think I've talked about that with you. It's in 2012, DC came out with a comic book series after. Well, hold on. The Watchmen was just its own story, its own entity in the DC. I guess not really the universe, but in the comics. It never it wasn't like Batman having communication and stuff with Superman. It was its own thing. You never saw Batman in the Watchmen. You never saw Rorschach in whatever. It was just its own thing up until I think it was maybe 2016 when they crossed it over with Batman. But before that, in 2012, they released a comic book storyline called Before Watchmen. And what they did was they gave all of the Watchmen origin stories, like just the events that led up to the Watchmen. So ultimately, it was like a prequel miniseries, and each character, Ozymandias, he had a 1 through 6 mini comic book series titled Ozymandias, and it was illustrated by Jay Lee and written by Len Wein. Jay Lee is my favorite comic book artist. He has such an amazing style, in my opinion. He doesn't follow what it's supposed to look like. He does it in his own style. But anyway, Ozymandias was, in my opinion, the best one. And I met Len Wein at, I think that's how you pronounce his last name. It's spelled W-E-I-N. Len Wein? Wayne? Not Wayne. Wine? I don't know. But anyway, I met him at one of the Comic-Cons, and he signed my Before Watchmen Ozymandias 1 through 6.
Wow.
I had to pay $5 for each of his autographs. But he died a few years after that.
Oh.
Not saying that they're going to be worth money. I'm not real concerned if they are. The reason I collect comics is because I like to read them. I haven't read any in a little while, so I kind of sound a little hypocritical saying that. And I collect the ones that I like. So that's why I have a lot. I have all the Before Watchmen comics. Like I mentioned, each character had their own mini-series. So Rorschach had his 1 through 4. Dr. Manhattan, I think he had 4. Silk Spectre, and there was even a Minutemen comic book storyline. Anyway, really cool stuff. What was crazy to me was the Ozymandias 1 through 6 was written so perfectly that you would have thought that they wrote that story before they ever wrote the Watchmen back in the 70s, because how beautifully it was written into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there's a part in the Watchmen movie, if you want to refer to that, or old school graphic novel, written by Alan Moore, who is one of my favorite comic book writers. There's a part in the movie where the comedian goes to that old bad guy Moloch. Do you remember that part where the comedian shows up in that guy's room and he's crying?
No.
No wonder you didn't fucking like it. Anyway,
I had to go to the bathroom or something. I don't know. I just walked away.
It never explains why the comedian showed up to Moloch's room and was crying that night. Yeah, it was a little bit before the comedian got killed. But in the Ozymandias story, it shows you, it explains it. It explains what the comedian saw that made him go crazy to go to Moloch's house crying like a little bitch.
Okay, moving right along.
Well, hold on. One more thing I want to add real quick on while we're talking about comics. While I'm talking about comics. a few people have asked, or I've heard a few people say that, man, they would love to get into comics, but they don't know where to start. And there are so many comics out there that it's hard to, it is hard to kind of pick, because you just have to take a blind jump. But if you would if you've been thinking about getting into reading them, which I strongly recommend, because it's so nice to have that material comic book in your hand. And if it's like an old one, it's cool to have it's like a piece of history, having it. Anyway, a good place to start, I recommended this to my friend Tommy the other day. Shout out Tommy. My friend Tommy's actually a rapper, and he's about to drop a new album. He goes by the name Edna. Check him out. Anyway, a good place to start if you're wanting to jump into comics is this Marvel series called The House of M. It's a 1 through 8. It has to do with it's a 1 through 8 comic book miniseries. It has to do with the X-Men and stuff like that. And its events, what it leads up to, is epic as fuck. And it leads up to another miniseries called Son of M, which Quicksilver is one of my favorite comic book heroes, or anti-heroes, however you want to look at it. That Son of M is mainly about Quicksilver, and towards the end, what it leads up to is a war with the Inhumans. Inhumans we're gonna save Inhumans for another day. I don't want to kill this guy.
Okay.
Well, hold on.
Well, everybody's turning off their TVs right now.
No, they're not. They're writing shit down, aren't you guys? They're writing shit down. Son of M leads up to Silent War. Silent War is so dope. Silent War is my favorite Marvel piece. So, anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, you were talking about your shirt. You have this shirt you bought at a concert.
Yeah.
A T-shirt.
Yeah.
One of
got
your
this
favorite
contortionist shirt from
favorite bands.
Yeah. Contortionist shirt from the last concert I went to. It was what's his face? Devin Townsend was headlining. Contortionist. Can't remember the other band, but it was cool. The last concert I went to.
Okay, so give me a minute. I'll get some duct tape for his face while I say something sideways. Anyway, I'd like to talk just a little bit about the phases of life that people go through, and the reasons for it. Number one, to start off, when you're a baby, you're not taught to breastfeed. It comes natural. And when the child gets a little bit older, they get turned on by candy. Ooh. Candy rules their world. They live from candy bar stretch of time to the next candy bar, and that's how they gauge their life. They love candy. And of course, when they get to be in puberty and teenagers, they want to do the boom boom. So it's a nice way to say it. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. So they do the boom boom. Oh man, never mind candy. Never mind. Throw the candy bar over your shoulder and just go do the boom boom. And so that kind of motivates a big motivational thing in your life, because it's how species keeps going. But after that, the next thing, when you get a little in your 20s, maybe 30s, depending on how mature you are, you start thinking, well, you know what? If I had money, I could get all the boom boom and candy that I could ever want if I had the money. So you see young people, almost middle-aged people, just going after the money. Everything is for the money. They're working 2 jobs, they're investing, they're doing this. Everything's for the money. And when they get the money, their idea is, well, they don't think about it consciously, but they're thinking, well, I can get all the boom boom I want because I get the money. And all the candy. I got a bag of candy in my trunk of my car. So that goes on for many years, and then when they accumulate a lot of money, they say, wow, I have all this money.
Drugs.
Well,
they turn to drugs.
No, drugs is that's a slippery slope downhill. That destroys your life.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
you jump
Terrible.
off. You jump off the train when you bring that in. But so you have all. You broke my train of thought. Speaking of trains, so money. They do everything to get money. Money is the most important thing. Kind of like a congressman going to Washington to get money. But anyway, that's a different story. That's today's story. So when they think that when they have the money, they can get all the boom boom and they have all the bags of candy. So everything is just falling right into place. But then they wake up one day and say, wow, I've got all this money, but I have no power. I have no power. So then they go out and they form a company, or they become a CEO, they work their way up the corporate ladder, or they, whatever they do, and they become in charge of people's careers. Or you fire this guy, or you hire this person, you promote that guy, you throw this guy to the curb. Whatever you have the power. So you have the power, and you have the money, and you have the boom boom, and you have the candy. Everything is going along great. And then they wake up after a few years of power. They wake up and they go, wow, I have all this money and I have all this power. No one knows who I am. So what's the next step? Fame. They want to be famed. It's kind of like the Ross Perot syndrome. Ross Perot was a billionaire. A lot of power. Tons of money. All the boom boom and candy he could have, right? But nobody knew who he was. Nobody had ever heard of him. So he went home one day, took the cushions out of his couch, found enough money to pay some people so he could run for president.
Picked up all that loose change.
All the loose change. He ran for, it cost about 50 grand, I think. He ran for president. And now everybody in the world knows who Ross Perot is. Right? So he did it just like that. And so he was at the very top of the echelon. Very top of the echelon. And I thought that was kind of interesting how the human progresses.
So Ross Perot ran against, was it Clinton or was it?
It was so long
Bush.
ago, I don't remember. I don't even remember. He ran as an independent. He wasn't Republican or Democrat, which is the way I've been for many, many years.
I don't know much about him. What happened?
Texas billionaire. He had this.
Ross Perot was?
Yeah, Texas billionaire.
Where's he from?
Texas?
Well, I know, but where? Do you know?
I don't know. I think he owns the Alliance Airport, or has something to do with the Alliance Airport. And I think some of his people bought that hunting ranch down on Squaw Mountain Road years later.
So I want to say I know where Squaw Mountain, but I was trying to think of.
Okay. But anyway, so he has his fingers and everything, and tremendously rich. And I thought he was a plain talking country boy who had common sense, and compared to the other talking heads from the Republicans and the Democrat side, I kind of wanted him to be president, so I voted for him. Myself and about 27 other people voted for him.
You're going to get reamed for that.
Think so?
Yeah.
But I'm an independent thinker. It was one of those. Sometimes you vote for you have a presidential program going on, and you vote for the lesser of the two evils. Anybody ever do that? You know, you don't really like this guy, and you don't really like that guy, but I'll go with him. You know, so you just don't know. But I don't vote just all Republican or all Democrat. I've swung back and forth. I've been a Democrat and I've voted Republican during the course of my life. So, but I vote on the person. Okay. And this last election,
that's a good quality, I guess. If you're
well, you have to think. You have to think. You just can't. Oh, my dad's a Democrat or my dad's a Republican, and my granddad was a Republican, so I vote Republican. You just can't. It's kind of like saying like my great grandfather had Pontiacs, and my grandfather had Pontiacs. My dad had Pontiacs, and I've had Pontiacs. What are you going to do? There's no more Pontiacs. They run out. They don't make them anymore, right? So you have to be able to think independently. That's something that's kind of.
That's like, along the same lines of, my parents went to church, and then their parents went to church, and then their parents went to church, and so that's why I go to church.
Yeah.
Because that's just what we do.
Or a particular denomination, that's a little touchier subject, but So it's just, what are your ancestors doing? And is it the right thing to do today? And so you have to kind of wake up. You have to kind of be aware of the times that we have right now.
Yeah.
There was we got into World War II late. We went to World War II, 1940, 41? The war had been going on for a couple of years.
I think it was 42.
42?
Well,
Could have been. I'll have to look it up.
invasion in France, I believe, was 42.
But so many Americans, I don't know whether they're Republicans or Democrats or whatever.
That doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Really?
But a lot of Americans didn't want to get involved in that because it's happening over there. Let's not get involved. We don't want to have a nasty thing going on like a world war. So a lot of people hesitated, and they just kept writing to congressmen and telling them, we don't want to get involved. We don't want to get involved. And kicking and screaming, but we got involved, and it's a good thing we did because, we went in kind of like Johnny come lately, and we actually saved the day. But Europe had been in war for years, and a year at war is a long time to be occupied by a foreign army. It's a long time. I think World War II is still probably the low point of society, modern society, humanity. Kind of the lowest point, what the war brought out in everybody. The atrocities, the tremendous atrocities.
Well, there's been some sort of war going on for 2,000 years.
Yeah,
that's just what people do. I mean, not me.
Yeah,
there's a lot of peaceful people out there.
Kind of leads me to the other thing that I was going to talk about tonight, and that is we have a thing that's in our country right now, and it has always been in our country, but now it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and to the point where you can't ignore it anymore. You can't push it under the rug. You can't change the subject. It's right there all the time now, and that is we look at some of these countries in the Middle East, and so here you have a country over here, and they have their own culture, their own religion, their own language, their own currency, their own government, everything. And then just on the other side of the border, you have another country, and the people all look the same. I mean, it's not like you can tell Africans from Caucasian people. I mean, these people all look the same. But the people on the other side of the border have their own culture, their own money, their own cooking style, their own clothes they wear. So they're just different. But these people here, they have been at war with each other, and they have hated each other for centuries, if not hundreds, if not thousands of years. They hate the people who are just on the other side of the border. And likewise, the people on the other side of the border are hating the people on the other side of the border. And so it goes back and forth. It just keeps going on and on and on for year after year, century after century. So how does that happen?
Well, that kind of hate exists obviously everywhere, and that kind of hate is taught. There's a lot of times where there is racial crimes where, we won't really get into that in depth, but where it really does immediately affect somebody. But that kind of hate that exists, it's taught for the most part.
Yeah. It's taught from the ground up.
Yeah, and it could come from like a long time ago, or it could come from programming.
Yeah, nurturing. Nurturing. So we look at that. We look at those people and say, we look back, we see both sides, and we look over the whole thing, like aerial view, and we say, what a bunch of dummies. These people over here absolutely have this hatred for the people over here, and vice versa. And they have these old wars going on. They've been going on for centuries and hundreds of years. What a waste of time. What a waste of life. What a waste of energy. But hatred is a very powerful emotion. It's probably more powerful than sex as far as emotions, as far as getting involved in it. You get somebody to stir up some hatred in somebody. Ooh, watch out, no holds barred, right? So this has been going on, and so we kind of laugh like these idiots, hate each other, having wars and doing all kinds of things and conquering, and it goes way back in time. But now here we are in America, America, our country. And we have this hatred going on. It used to be, back in the 50s, 40s, and 60s, and around that area, it was the whites hated the blacks hated the whites, the blacks hated the Jews hated everybody. I mean, it went round and round and round, you know. But so we've always had hatred, right? The farmers hated the free rangers, free grazers. The people used to have herds of cattle go across the property and on the way to Wyoming, and they hated them. And then they had the cattle people hated the people that raised sheep because the sheep did damage to the. It just went on and on and on. Always had hatred, right? Some people hated the Indians, and the Indians hated this and that. So we've always had hatred. It's nothing new. We didn't invent it. It's part of life, right? But when you see it today, wow. I remember if I voted for Ross Perot and one of the other guys won the presidency, I didn't have hatred. You just kind of say, you have to be mature about it. I just said, well, let's see what this guy can do. The American people, majority of the American people want this guy to be president. Okay. I didn't vote for him, but let's see what he can do. But now we have this. Now we have this seething hatred, which clouds your mind. It clouds your emotion. It raises your emotions, and it limits your scope and your focus, and you become blind. Blinding hatred, and that's what we have. A large part of the American population has a seething hatred for the president. And you say, what? How can this happen? Well, it's being nurtured, being nurtured, being fed every day, stirred every day, in every way. And so it's kind of like there was a girl that I knew. I had a friend that worked at a bank, and all the girls were all the tellers and bookkeepers and whatnot, and all the men that run the bank would come around and visit with them and flirt and do everything else like men do. But I went to a Christmas party with a friend, and all the women that worked at this one bank and one branch were all there. It was a Christmas party, and they had a new girl. They had a new girl that just showed up, been there just a few weeks, and they invited her to the Christmas party. And she came to the party, and she was a knockout. She had legs that went all the way up. She showed a little bit of cleavage, long blonde hair. She was a beauty. All the men, except me, of course, all the men showed all their attention and focus on her, ignoring all the other women at the party, right? Well, this really pissed them off. Really pissed them off. Because whenever the guys, the bank executives come around, they go over to her desk and talk to her, right? And so the women weren't having that. So they sabotaged her. They hated her. They had a seething hatred for her. They were going to get rid of her. So they set her up. They put a piece of paper in between other pieces of paper, had them sign it. Oh, here you go. Here you go. And when the paper went out, she did something wrong. And they fired her. So the girls went all doing high fives, saying, oh, got rid of that bitch. All right. But that's the hen house effect. They call it the hen house effect. But but while she was there, she couldn't do anything right. Everything she said was wrong. Everything she did was wrong. Everything she wanted to do was the wrong way to do it. In other words, they had a hatred. Okay?
You want to revolve the door?
Yeah, let's do that.
I was thinking, I can't remember if it was on the last podcast that you said this or if we were just talking one day. You mentioned one time that you think that you saw a ghost. Was that right? Or was it a UFO? It was a ghost? What was it?
I don't know.
You said, have you ever seen something crazy that you can't explain?
No, I think most outrageous things I've seen have been little bits and pieces throughout my life, just without total randomness. But Vietnam had a lot of things that you'll never see ever. Some things you don't want to see, but it had very unusual tidbits.
Is that something that you think you might ever want to talk about on the podcast?
Oh, maybe a future one.
Okay. All my life, I mean, no pressure. You don't have to right now. But all my life, he's told me some cool stories about Vietnam. It was a lot of nasty shit that happened over there. But he's got a couple of funny stories, just because back then was obviously a different time in history, where it's just about people smoking weed and stuff like that. I don't want to fuck it all up. He says he'll talk about it in a future episode, so we'll definitely have to get into that.
Okay. Vietnam's kind of like the war experience, and almost any veteran will tell you. It's kind of like this. See the little dot right here, this little black spot? Okay. You have good things that happen in a war. You have camaraderie, you have fun, you have funny things that happen, and everything else. And then you have bad things that happen. So all the terrible memories, you put it in a little box. And you keep that little box in the back of your brain. And you don't bring it out. You just kind of like safekeeping. So that's what I've done. It worked for me. And when I get angry, I can feel that box. It's kind of like a safe on rollers, like roller skates. You know how roller skates across concrete? You know how it makes that kind of a rumbling sound? Yeah, when I get real angry, I can feel that box, or I can hear that box in my brain. It's like moving it across a stadium, a concrete stadium.
Or is it
starts getting closer, and so I have to change. I can hear it, and I can feel it, and so I stop what I'm doing and say, "Oh, this is not going to go." So then I have to either change the situation, change the subject, change whatever, and it'll start rolling back the other way, and it'll stay there forever until I get angry.
Like the off Home Alone, whenever the tool chest, he's like, "That's the sound of a tool chest coming down the stairs." That's the sound I imagine.
Yeah. Well, no, not quite that loud.
Okay.
But
whenever I was a kid, though, he never told us like any of the bad stuff.
You don't want to.
Yeah, and obviously that was the best call.
Yeah.
He said at one point, I remember him saying that, "I'll tell you when you're older," and when I got older, he told me. And there's a lot of cool stuff. While we're talking about it, I plan on writing a biography about my dad, kind of about his whole life from, day one to present, and his tour in Vietnam. Was it one tour? Two tours in Vietnam.
One and a half.
Yeah, 1.5. Big part of the story, and it's going to include everything that he's willing to share. But there's a lot of cool stuff. I won't really go into it, like you said. We'll do it in the future, but it'll be interesting. You guys, I know you'd like it, because just one more thing I want to shed on that is there's a lot of war stories. We were talking about Full Metal Jacket earlier.
Yeah,
we'll get into that if you want to. There's a lot of war stories, war movies that are like, if you fabricated, if you will. It's not like what it was really like, according to what but with these stories that my dad has shared with me and my brother Mikey over the years, they're like just as real as it gets. It's not shit that you can just like make up. So you don't really get that in movies much that I've seen.
It was kind of surreal.
Yeah, I'm sure it was.
And it could change in a split second. It could change. Everything's just cool and fine, relaxed, and all of a sudden, there you are.
So, I heard, I can't remember where I heard it, that UFOs that were spotted in the Vietnam War were referred to as enemy helicopters. Did you ever see any enemy helicopters in your 1.5 tour in Vietnam?
No.
Nothing.
No tanks. Yeah, no tanks. It kind of, just a sidebar. Saddam Hussein, they were going to get ready. They were getting ready to do the war against Saddam Hussein, and one of the reasons why he struck such fear, aside from harboring terrorists, is that he had the world's third largest army, the world's third largest military, huge air force, tanks, infantry, just huge. So he was a threat, right? So here we sail a couple of our aircraft carriers, one or two. We sail along the Gulf, off the coast, and as soon as we started doing our attacks, the Saddam Hussein's air force, you've seen Top Gun and all those, the alarms go off and they grab their stuff and they're running towards their jet fighters and they open the thing and they jump in. So all the jet fighters, they're all scrambling and they're going down the runway and they're just taking off there.
And the dude goes like this.
Yeah.
Good luck.
And they all flew to Turkey. It kills me. It just kills me. You have this squadrons and squadrons of
Why did they fly to
fighters.
Turkey?
So because anytime they get within 5 miles of one of our planes, they get shot down. We could see them 200 miles away, and they could see us about 1.5 miles away. I mean, it was too late. By the time they saw us, it was over. And so, no dogfights, no nothing. They just got on their planes and flew to Turkey and went, whew, almost got caught in a war. After all, I'm just a fighter pilot. It was kind of like an easy, excursion. And while I'm here, can I have a Vegemite sandwich?
Vegemite.
Anyway, I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah.
And then their whole their army of tanks. Well, we got to watch out for the Red Guard. The Red Guard. Oh, the veterans of the season. They were the seasoned troops. Yeah, the Red Guard. They know how to do this. As soon as they saw us, we rolled up on them and they all went, oh, King's X. Hey, can't shoot me. They all just surrendered. The whole thing was a joke. But anyway, our military is badass. I mean, the baddest of the asses. Badass. They don't want to screw with us at all. And
Most baddest of all the asses.
That's badass. Yeah. But
Baddest of them all.
yeah, well, we're going to wind this down because I had dark hair when we started this podcast. So
But my whole life, he's had that hair and beard.
I was born with it.
Like Benjamin Button.
All right. Well, thank you for watching, and we'll give a podcast number 3. Don't forget our name, the Revolving Door. If you like, push the dislike button and never look at us again ever. or after this podcast, just throw your phone away. But anyway, thank you, and I hope you found something interesting here.
Have a good night. We'll see you at the next episode.